Here are 5 top tips for your backups and disaster recovery. The first one, always make sure that you're saving your files in the right place. Please, I implore you, don't do it locally. If you're saving onto a server share, like I say, they're part of the backup plans. They're more open for collaboration with the rest of your team, and you can be certain that if something happens to your device, they're still going to be there. Again, if you're saving into the cloud, especially with solutions like Office 365, the minute you save a file into Office 365, whether it be OneDrive or SharePoint, it keeps a version, and it will then auto save and keep every iteration every time you save, or it auto saves as you go throughout the day, meaning the potential for data loss is much, much lower. Keep 3 copies of your data, the live data, the backup data, and the backup copy, ideally in a separate physical location. It might be paranoia, but it is best practice. We know that if anything does happen physically to the area where your data is kept, so even if it is on your server, 9 times out of 10, you're backing up from your server to another device that's in the same place, whether it be the same building or the same room. So like I said, we always recommend having a secondary location separate physically from your primary location, so another office or a cloud repository where you can keep as much as you can in copies of your data to ensure that should the worst occur, 747 lands on the building, God forbid there's a fire, especially at the moment, because there'd be no one there to be able to see if that is the case, you are still going to be protected in those instances. Thirdly, make sure you're keeping your backups for a sufficient length of time. Now, the industry standard and what we will typically recommend is 30 days. The reason for 30 days, it bears quite significantly on finance and payroll. So these are systems that people might only use once a month. You use it at the end of the month or the start of the month, and then you won't touch it again for another 30 days. Now, if there was an issue with one of those files, say halfway through the month, you're not going to access it until the end of the month, and you're not going to know. So if your backups only go back for the last 14 or the last 21 days, you could be in risk of losing all of that data. So we always encourage at the very least 30 days as a minimum if you can. Data is getting bigger, but thankfully storage is getting cheaper. So it's never been a better time to make sure that you've got the investment in place to make sure that your backups can go back as long as possible. My 4th tip, test your backups at least once a month to make sure that they're working. It's something that we do internally in the backup team for all of our customers. We do checks on your backups. The software itself has inbuilt checks that it runs to ensure the integrity of those restore points. But the last thing you want to do is be relying on something that then doesn't work. So we absolutely recommend test, and test again. For those of you who are using Macs at home and you have Time Machine, do a test of your Time Machine backup. For the people who are using backups on their local PCs that they're using as bring your own device at the moment, test them, try and restore something. Does it work? If it doesn't, let us know, because we can definitely help and make sure we can get those things back on track for you. And then lastly, make sure that everything that you need to have protected is protected. I know it sounds stupid, but a lot of the time we speak to people when we're first coming into these sort of conversations with them before we sign up to any sort of agreements or start working with people, and they might have 5 servers, only 3 of which are being backed up. So whatever functions those other 2 servers are performing, if they go, they're gone. There's no way of getting them back without that backup. So make sure that your servers, your file shares, your cloud resources, and in some cases, user machines, if people are using intensive CAD software where it's prohibitive to use it over the VPN or use it outside of the office because they're such large files and doing it over that network would be too slow, make sure those critical systems are being backed up.